Hello folks, Simon here, welcome back to the channel. It is 29th of October 2020 and we have just received our very first major information dump for the upcoming Final Fantasy 16, courtesy of the official website which has just launched today. So if you want to find out more about the world of the game, about some of the major characters involved in the game, then this is going to be information suited for you. But before we get into this, I do want to give a quick shout out to Benjamin, who has become the latest patron for the channel. So thank you, Benjamin, for your support, and let's get started. This is the official website, just gone live. Let's see what we can glean from it. Now, the website has launched with this new artwork, and to be honest with you, I think this really sets the tone as to the direction that Final Fantasy 16 is going to be heading in. And the tagline, at least for the moment, is "The legacy of the crystals has shaped our history for long enough." And then we've got the one of the realms situated in the background with two of the icons coming in from each side of the screen. So it looks fantastic, it really does. And even though this is a Final Fantasy that's kind of edging away from what's been done before, it's going in a more mature direction. We know that already. We know it's going to have a much higher rating than previous Final Fantasies in terms of the maturity level. But it's also going to be drawing on some of the traditional aspects of the Final Fantasy franchise in terms of the crystals and how that's going to be interpreted in the lore and all of that stuff. And I'm not that familiar with Final Fantasy 14, I'll be honest with you. That's the MMO, the second MMO from the franchise. But it seems to me, from what I understand, that Final Fantasy 16 is going to be drawing heavy inspiration from the MMO. A very, very successful game, by the way. Before we go into the world and characters on the website here, it is worth noting, since I mentioned Final Fantasy 14, it's not a huge surprise that 16 is drawing big inspiration from that particular game, because the big higher-ups working on 16 are both Final Fantasy 14 veterans, with Naoki Yoshida, who I'm sure many of you are familiar with by this point, Yoshi P, as he is sometimes referred to. He had a big influence in saving Final Fantasy 14 from its original disastrous launch into the game that many people love today. And also Hiroshi Takai, who was also very prominent, and maybe still is, I'm not sure, in the development of Final Fantasy 14. So these are heading up 16 here, and there's some, messages from them. If you want to read that, I'll leave that to you. So let's make a start then and get into, first of all, the world of Final Fantasy 16. Like I said, a lot of information here. The first thing is that we have this artwork. Now, okay, why is this relevant? This artwork is not new artwork. This made its way onto the internet about 3 or 4 years ago, I think, and I made a video on it at the time saying this is Final Fantasy 16. It has to be. And some of you agreed with me, many of you didn't. But there we go. Look, I don't like to gloat, but confirmation, this is Final Fantasy 16. And this is one of 6 realms, I would assume. There are 6 realms that are going to be present in the world. This has to be one of them. And each of the realms is going to be surrounded by a mountain of powerful crystals that give power to each of the realms. Now, the world of the game is called Vallistia, and as it says here, a land blessed in the light of the mother crystals. Now, the mother crystals are effectively mountains of crystals, and there's a few of them situated all around the planet, and various kingdoms have been built up around them. And there are going to be, I believe, 6 major kingdoms in total scattered throughout the world of Vallistia. At least the website goes into details on 6 of these kingdoms. And throughout the vast majority of history of the kingdoms, it seems they've been able to live relatively at peace with one another. But of course, we do need a little bit of conflict in our game. So as we actually start to play, we're going to very quickly learn that piece has now begun to fracture. And as for the details as to why this is happening, it seems that this is something to do with a phenomenon known as blight. Now, we don't know exactly what this blight is, what the nature of it is, what it entails. It sounds like maybe it could be something to do with a virus that's sweeping across the planet. Maybe it's some kind of malevolent force that has a consciousness, has a will of its own, with its own ends. I suspect the latter, to be honest with you. This is Final Fantasy. But we don't know. It's going to be interesting as we play the game, finding out more about the blight and why it's causing this kind of conflict between the various realms. So, scrolling down a little bit, we get some information on icons and dominance. If you're not up to date with the Final Fantasy 16 trailer. I'm sure many of you, probably all of you, have watched it by this point. Icons are the summons of Final Fantasy 16. I believe that's a phrase coming directly from Final Fantasy 14. And then dominants are unique individuals that actually have the power to harness these icons. So they're kind of like having a symbiotic relationship. And it seems that dominants, which are the people, can either be blessed by having icons or cursed depending on the realm in which they live. There's the map of the world of Vallistia, so, not a whole lot of detail on it, but yeah, it looks pretty awesome. I'm sure, we'll get to explore it. And it looks like here we have whatever kingdom it is that we saw in that concept art. You can tell by the huge crystal palace castle type thing here. Again, that's the concept art we've seen for quite a few years now. Seems it's located. Oh, it might actually be that thing there. Yeah, I think that's it. And this here is the mountain behind it, the mother crystal. In fact, now I've seen the map, if we scroll back up to that concept art, I haven't noticed this before, but yeah, you can see in the clouds and that there is a mountain there behind the palace structure. So yeah, that is presumably one of these mother crystals that the website is teaching us about. And this is where the kingdom, whichever kingdom this is able to draw much of its power from. Okay, right then, so moving on down, we get some information about the kingdoms in question, or the realms as they're known in the game. They are the Grand Duchy of Rosaria, the Holy Empire of Sambrick, the Kingdom of Walloed, or Wallode, or Walloid, the Dharmekian Republic, the Iron Kingdom, and the Crystalline Dominion. And the kingdom that's listed first here, the Grand Duchy of Rosaria, is presumably listed in this position because arguably it's going to have the most importance in the game. And, I believe we've already seen quite a bit of this kingdom in the trailer. I believe it's Rosaria where Joshua hails from. And this is going to be a kingdom situated close to a volcano mother crystal. So expect lots of fire and brimstone in terms of this particular realm. Okay, so I did have a go at trying to match the various kingdoms to their location on the world map here, and I probably made a lot of mistakes, so I won't go over that with you, but I'll be interested in hearing what you guys think about where each of these kingdoms is situated. The only one I'm relatively sure about is that the Iron Kingdom is this location here, towards the west of the world, and this here, I think it's called Drake or something, is the name of their mother crystal, which is located on one of their islands. But which kingdom do you think this one is? The one that I believe is from that old age concept art here. If you guys have an idea as to which kingdom this is from the 6, then please do share in the comments, because I'm interested in learning more. I really, really am. Okay, so let's move over now to the characters. I'm not reading everything that's listed on this website, of course, since you can do that yourselves. Just giving you a few thoughts of my own as we go through it. Now, at the moment, the website is showcasing 3 major characters, each of which is from the Kingdom of Rosaria. Again, I do suspect this is probably going to be the prominent kingdom, the prominent realm that's, revolving around the story in the game itself. So, first of all, we have Clive Rossfield, and Clive was suspected to be the dominant for the Phoenix icon, but it turns out that wasn't to be his destiny, and that went to his younger brother, Joshua Rossfield, who we've also seen quite a bit of in the game trailer. And finally, we have Jill Warwick, who is also part of the Rosaria kingdom, and Jill is effectively adopted into the household of Joshua and Clive, perhaps like as a sister or something, although not blood related. Now, despite being brothers, Clive and Joshua do appear to have very different personalities. Clive is being presented as the brave soldier archetype, perhaps the man that the whole kingdom looks up to as the one who's going to save them, the man who will lay down his life if need be for his people. Joshua, on the other hand, is presented as more of a weakling, somebody that's perhaps a little bit more cowardly to start with, a little bit scared of everything, and yet, for whatever reason, Destiny has chosen Joshua and not Clive to be the dominant for the Phoenix icon. So, assumingly, throughout the course of the game and throughout the course of the story, Joshua is going to have to learn to find his courage in order to contend with whatever forces are going to be prevalent here. Now, it seems as well there's been some kind of major tragic event, either before the game starts or shortly, after it starts, perhaps as part of the prelude here, where Clive faces some kind of tragedy at the hands of the dark icon Ifrit, and this makes him a little bit angry, and as it says here, sets him on a dangerous road to revenge. And as we all know, revenge can be a very dangerous thing indeed, since it often clouds the thoughts of the one that is so angry. But perhaps this is where Jill Warwick is going to fit in. Again, she's going to be a character that the brothers trust implicitly. Maybe she's going to be the voice of reason here, and is going to really guide and help Joshua and Clive on their journey. As for what this tragic event entails, obviously we don't know yet. We're going to have to play the game to find out. But it seems to have impacted Clive more than it does Joshua, so I wouldn't have thought it was the death of a mother or father here. I'm going to suspect it's more likely perhaps a wife for Clive, or some kind of friend that Clive was closer to that perhaps Joshua wasn't. But even Joshua is still going to have to contend with his brother walking down this dangerous path of revenge, and he's going to have to make his own choices as to whether he goes along with that or not. But there we have it then, guys. A whole load of new information. I've literally just skimmed the dialogue, or sorry, the text here, so you guys can read it out in a little bit more depth if you want to. But please do share your thoughts down in the comments as to what you feel about this first information dump for Final Fantasy 16. And is the game going in a direction that you anticipated? A direction that you hoped for, perhaps? You know, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I am really looking forward to this game. You know, I really am. It's really intrigued me, especially going through some of the information here today. It's got me hyped. I'm not going to lie to you. So Square have said we're going to be getting a load more information in 2021. Release dates and that are still not part of the discussion, so I don't know what, you know, when this game is coming. I've predicted early 2022. Some people are predicting late 2021. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I hope this video has been helpful to you guys. Appreciate you stopping by. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time for maybe more Final Fantasy 16 news. See you then.